Please leave my compound before you bring trouble to my family." The words hit harder than the rain. The young woman standing at the gate wrapped both arms around her swollen stomach and lowered her head. Nobody could miss that she was heavily pregnant. Nobody could miss that she was exhausted. And nobody could miss that the rain falling from the dark Bayelsa sky had already soaked her clothes completely. Yet the gate slammed shut in her face. Across the street, several people watched. Some shook their heads. Others pretended not to see. The woman swallowed hard. Then she slowly continued walking through the muddy road. What nobody knew was that before sunrise the next day, the entire town would be talking about her. And the people rejecting her would wish they had made a different choice. Her name was Kuro. She arrived in Ebiere River town on a crowded wooden passenger boat 3 days earlier. Her husband had died 6 months before. Complications after the burial left her with debts she could not pay. When her landlord threw her out, she took the little money she had left and traveled to Bayelsa hoping to stay with a distant relative. But when she arrived, she discovered the relative had already relocated to Port Harcourt. She was alone, completely alone. For 3 days, she survived by sleeping under market stalls after traders closed for the evening. By the 4th day, dark clouds covered the sky. Everyone knew a major storm was coming. People rushed home. Fishermen secured their boats. Shop owners pulled down their shutters. Kuro knew she needed shelter. Fast. She approached the first house. They refused. The second house refused. The third refused. At one compound, a woman looked at her stomach and stepped back. "I don't want childbirth problems in my house." The gate closed. Kuro kept walking. By evening she reached the jetty. There, under a rusted zinc roof, sat Ebiere. Every day Ebiere sold sachet-water, roasted plantain, and groundnuts. She was a widow. Her husband had died years earlier during a fishing accident. Since then she survived 1 day at a time. Some days she sold enough to eat. Some days she didn't. The wealthy people in town often laughed at her. "See Mama Water. Still sitting here after all these years. Has poverty not tired her?" Ebiere always smiled and continued working. As Kuro passed, her legs suddenly gave way. She collapsed into the mud. Ebiere immediately dropped her tray. "My daughter." She rushed over. People nearby gathered. Kuro explained everything between tears. The dead husband, the missing relative, the days without shelter, the storm, the fear. Some people listened. Then they quietly walked away. One man even said, "This matter can become expensive. Let her find her family." And he left. That was when Ebiere made a decision that would change everything. "My daughter, stand up." Kuro looked at her. "You will sleep in my house tonight." The crowd laughed. "Which house?" "That tiny room near the river. 2 people can barely fit there." Ebiere ignored them. She helped Kuro to her feet. Together they walked through the rain. Ebiere's home was exactly as people describe. 1 small room, 1 wooden bed, 1 kerosene stove, 1 leaking roof. Nothing more. That night Ebiere gave Kuro the bed. She spread an old wrapper on the floor and slept there herself. When Kuro protested, Ebiere smiled. "You need it more than I do." Before I tell you what happened next, if you enjoy African drama stories filled with powerful life lessons, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because what happened that night changed the lives of an entire community. Now let's continue. Around midnight the storm became violent. Thunder shook the walls. The river began rising. Then came the shouting, people running, children crying, doors slamming. Flood water had entered the town. Within minutes roads disappeared beneath muddy water. Several compounds were trapped. Panic spread everywhere. But Ebiere knew the river better than anyone. 4 years she had lived beside it. She immediately woke Kuro. Then she began helping neighbors move toward higher ground. Back and forth she went through the rain, helping elderly people, helping children, leading families to safety. Hour after hour. By dawn the flood had damaged dozens of homes. Many families lost property. The entire community gathered at the secondary school being used as temporary shelter. Everyone looked exhausted. Then something unexpected happened. A convoy of vehicles arrived 3 days later. Large vehicles, officials, emergency workers. The entire town watched in confusion. The visitors asked one question: "Where is Mama Ebiere?" People pointed toward the old water cellar. The leader of the group immediately walked over and hugged her. The crowd gasped. It turned out Kuro was not just a stranded traveler. Before her husband's death, she had worked for a major humanitarian foundation that partnered with disaster relief agencies across Nigeria. After recovering, she reported everything, not just the flood, not just the town's needs. She told them about the woman who helped her when nobody else would. Within weeks, the organization launched a community support project. Flood barriers were constructed. Families received assistance. Fishing equipment was donated. Market stalls were rebuilt. And most surprising of all, Ebiere was offered a permanent position as a community welfare coordinator. The same people who mocked her now stood in long lines asking for her help. The same wealthy residents who closed their gates watched government officials shake her hand. Chief Purr, who always gave speeches about helping others, stood silently as Ebiere received public recognition. Terry, the wealthy fish merchant, who had refused Kuro shelter, could barely look up. 4 years people had laughed at the old water cellar. Now the entire town applauded her. One evening months later, Kuro sat beside Ebiere overlooking the river. The floodwaters were gone. The town was stronger. The future looked brighter. "You changed my life," Kuro said. Ebiere smiled. "No." She looked across the water. "We simply met each other on the day we both needed somebody." Sometimes kindness does not knock on your door dressed as an opportunity. Sometimes it arrives tired, wet, unwanted, and carrying a problem nobody else wants. And the people who open the door anyway are often the ones who change the world. Because the true measure of a heart is not what it gives when it has plenty. It is what it gives when it has almost nothing.